Hi, my name is Cindy, and I'm an addict. Thanks for your message. I got to tell you a little story. I have lots of stories, but I got to tell you a little story about Bob here. Friday night, I was going to a meeting, and I have to clear something up here, first of all. To be honest, my name is Cindy D., and I'm from Fort Lauderdale. But it's via New York, via Kansas, okay? Kansas, all right. Anyway, Land of Oz, you know, Dorothy and Toto and the boys, anyway. I have to tell you a little story about Bob. Friday night, I'm getting ready to get in the car to go to a meeting. My daughter comes running out and she goes, some guy from Texas is on the phone. So I figured, I got to tell you honestly, I said, somebody found out I'm speaking at the World Convention, and my ego went flying and said they're going to ask me to speak in Texas. Okay? So I ran into the house, I pick up the phone, and this one here says, what are you wearing? And then he says to me, do you know what you're going to say? I had no idea, you know. But it really was neat because you know what? This addict took time out. When he found out that I was going through Dallas, he came to the airport, walked me through the airport, and put me on the plane. And that's fellowship. If my heart and my knees stop knocking so hard, I may get on with this. Gratitude. I have a lot of gratitude today. I have a lot of gratitude for just being able to stand up here, you know, because I didn't stand a lot when I was using. I spent most of the time in the corner with my chin in my chest and a nod. I don't have to do that today, and I'm real grateful for that. You know, I can look out amongst all of you, and you're all dressed up, and you're all nice and clean, and people in the bars weren't like that. People in that crack houses and shit weren't like that. Oops, I said shit. Anyway. I should have done a little thing before. You know, it was great last night listening to them because they kind of broke the ice with that one, you know, because I probably won't be able to talk for how many ever minutes without cussing, so if you can't handle it, I guess you'll have to call your sponsor. I also want to thank the convention committee for asking me. It's a great honor to be up here. And, you know, I'm just real grateful for that. I'm real grateful. When Martin called me, I thought he was kidding, because, see, I've known Martin for a long time. And I kind of pulled a thing on him many years ago. As a matter of 10, 11 years ago. He went through treatment in Kansas. I'll tell a little of his story. He went through treatment in Kansas, and he was real sick. Real sick. This is your program chair, okay? And I'll tell you how closely knit we are, you know, feeling-wise, and I'm sure some of you are going to identify with this. I don't know, it must have been about 9 months, almost a year after he got clean. One night I got this feeling, I got to call Martin. I got to call Martin, and I got his wife on the phone. And she said, he's not home. And I said, well, where is he? She says, I don't know. And she was not too happy, and things were not setting real good. Okay? Well, that was the last time Martin went out to use. And I knew something was wrong. I mean, I had this feeling. So the next morning, I was on the phone at 6:30. And she says, he doesn't want to talk to you. And I said, you better put him on that phone. Tell him to get on that phone, or I'm going to get on an airplane and I'm coming up there. So he got on the phone. About 5 days later, I called him and I says, Martin, you want to speak at the World Convention in Wichita? 4 months later, he spoke at the World Convention. He's been clean. So that's my little story about Martin. And he's great. He's great, right? Did a great job, Martin. All the committees have done a hard job here. You know, I know how hard it is to put on a convention. It's a lot of pain. It's a lot of joy. Mostly when it all comes together and all these recovering addicts are in one room carrying the message of Narcotics Anonymous. I went to my first Narcotics Anonymous meeting in December of 1976 in Lincoln, Nebraska. And I was chasing a man when I went to that meeting. I'd been to treatment, and I came out of treatment, and like maybe somebody can identify with, I fell in love in treatment. You know, one of those treatment romances. So I rushed up to Lincoln, because that's where he lived. And the funny thing was, it was a real cold night, and he says, I'm going to take you to a Narcotics Anonymous meeting. And before that, I'd been around, you know, but not to Narcotics Anonymous. We didn't have any Narcotics Anonymous in Topeka at the time. And I walked into this room, and I saw when we pulled up, there was all these bikes outside. I said, oh boy, here we go. Bikers. Excitement. You know? And I walked in, and I'll never forget, Jim N. was sharing, and he was crying. And I knew I was home because I could identify with everything he was talking about. And from that day on, I have been a member of Narcotics Anonymous. I took a white book, I went back to Topeka, and I started a meeting. We didn't know nothing about traditions. We didn't know nothing about the steps. All I did was I went and drug a few addicts together, and we started this meeting. And the really wild thing was, when I was home for Christmas this year visiting, I went to that meeting, and it's still in the same place at the same time. I have to admit, my ego took over a little in that meeting. And this guy says to me, you're new, I said, yeah, I'm visiting from New York. And he says, how would you like to chair this meeting tonight? Whoa! I was off and running with that one. So I got up there, I said, okay, how long can you wait to tell him? It took 2 minutes and 30 seconds. And I said, I started this meeting. But it was great. I mean, it was great sitting in that room where I'd been so sick. I'm still sick, but I'm not as sick. And it's still there, man. That's power. That's so much power. Narcotics Anonymous is a lot of power. There's a lot of power in this room right now. I feel it. I'm not as nervous, you know. I wrote these notes. I don't have my glasses. I can't see a goddamn thing. But they weren't important anyway, because I remember one time I tried to read off of note cards. I screwed up the whole thing. You know, so this is just coming from me, from my heart. You know, because I did hear one thing one time, and that was, you know, a little saying, and I don't know where it comes from, I'm not sure, but it says, when the heart speaks, the soul listens. And so I'm going to come to you from my heart. Some of my story is real crazy. I'm not going to spend much time telling you about what it was like out there, because I assume all of you know. You know, I'll tell you a couple of things so you know I qualify to stand up here. You know. like I said, I grew up for a while in Kansas. I moved to New York when I was 5. We moved all over. I'm an Army brat and an Air Force brat slash, father, stepfather. We moved all around. I really never felt like I had a whole lot of roots anywhere. But I guess if any place was, it was Kansas, because my grandparents were there, and that's where they always shipped me back to. In New York, I started using probably when I was about 14, 13, smoking cigarettes, drinking beer, doing a little speed, I am a child of the 60s, better living through chemistry, 3 days after I graduated from high school, I hitchhiked to California and started doing every drug I could find. And that was real easy at that time, with the flowers in my... I still have a flower in my hair. With the flowers in my hair, the beads, the bells, the whole thing. Dropping acid with Timothy Leary, looking for the greater consciousness. I decided maybe I needed a job, so I went to work for a bookie, and I wrote book for a while. Had no idea what I was doing. All I knew was that I called people up and told them, hey, I'm like Shoemaker's sister. I got a tip on a horse for you today, How much you want to bet? And then we put the little files in the safe. And, from there I got involved with the little motorcycle gang, Hell's Angels. I thought they were a nice bunch of guys. What can I tell you? That tells you my judge of character, But they were a nice bunch of guys. Had lots of drugs. And then I decided, well, I'll change careers. So I got a contract into Las Vegas, and I was a showgirl. And that was really fun. I can't tell you that all of my using was bad, because it wasn't. I had some good times, but the good times turned into hell. From Las Vegas, I guess I knew I was starting to get in trouble out there, because I was never clean, ever. I think probably from the time I was about 14 on, I don't think there were many days that I didn't put some kind of chemical in my body. I could not function without a drug in any way, shape, or form. Then I decided, I always got mixed up with guys that weren't quite legal, you know what I mean, like gangster types. And I remember I had this one sugar daddy, and he says, you need a vocation. So I decided to become an embalmer. So I went to funeral directing school. I am a licensed embalmer in the state of New York. I figured this was a great job. Who was going to tell what I was doing? Right? They were dead. They weren't talking a lot. Everybody else drank down there, so why not me? This is perfect. Well, I didn't last too long at that. I didn't last too long at anything at that point in time, because I just wanted to use. And this went on and on and on and on till the end. A lot of geographics in there. Moved to Dallas. Made me real nervous going through Dallas, because I'm not even supposed to be in Texas. I hustled right through that airport. Went to Memphis. Got thrown out of there. Because, see, I had this thing. When I drank and did speed, I thought I was Godzilla. You weren't big enough to whip my ass if I was on speed. And I always wore this black Stetson cowboy hat. And I kept all my drugs up in it, you know. I was a mess. I was a total mess. And then I went back to Kansas. I always went back to Kansas. Well, actually, I usually went back to Kansas to find a husband to take care of me and cure me. You know, and I have had a few. A few more than I care to mention, but I have given up that hobby, though. I'm proud to announce I have been single for 9 years. But I'm looking. I don't have the patience for him to come to me, you know what I mean? Well, actually, I can't say that, and I better straighten this up because I know somebody's going to listen to this tape. You know, and I have met somebody that's very special, but I'm trying to he's helping me to take it easy, you know, because I'm one of those people, okay, you like me, let's go, you know. I mean, you know, I go for the whole thing all at once. I don't give it any time, you know, and I'm crazy. That's probably why they don't last, you know. But I'm getting better. I'm getting better. It's because I've been able to share that with you. You know, anyway, I'm going to tell you the end. The end was horrible. The end happened. I had nothing left. My daughter was getting ready to be taken away from me. My life was totally unmanageable. I was sick. I was beaten. And I was truly bankrupt. And that's the way it was. I checked into detox for the last time, and they weren't even going to take me, because I'd been there 11 times already. And I said, if you don't take me, I'm going to kill myself. You know? And they took me that last time. And I remember this old guy came in and he said, if you don't stop, you're going to die. And I said, so? Because at that point in time, I couldn't really grab onto life. But I finally got a moment of sanity, and I did. And I think that the real ticket to the whole thing, though, was I gotten involved with this guy straight out of prison, great body, young, and we moved to Salina, Kansas, in this cruddy motel. And it was New Year's Eve. And I wasn't quite convinced that I still couldn't drink. You know, the old alcohol thing. I don't do drugs anymore, but I can take a drink. Forgetting that alcohol is the oldest known drug. And I'll never forget, we planned it. We bought a case of beer, a fifth of Southern Comfort, and a fifth of champagne. He drank 2 beers and I drank the rest. And I remember, I don't know whatever happened to this guy. But I'm real grateful to him today because he said the words that probably have kept me clean a lot of times. And that is, we got up the next morning, and I'd always kind of prided myself in halfway looking okay, which I really didn't anymore at that point in time. And I remember we got up the next morning, and he looked at me, and he said, you're old, you're ugly, and you're nothing but a fucking alcoholic. And I'm so grateful he said that, because for the first time, I knew what I was and what I had to do. And I haven't used since January 1st, 1977. And then from there started the real journey into recovery, which is even crazier than some of my using out there. You know, because I was supposed to know what I was doing now, which I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know how to do anything anymore. But you people taught me how to live. You tried to show me the way. Sometimes I balked. Real hard. You know, when I first came in, they said, don't use and go to meetings. They didn't even tell me don't have any relationships, because they knew that wasn't going to even work with me. So, you know, I did what they told me to do as far as going to meetings and not using. And the days turned into months, and the months turned into weeks. And then I got involved in service. I mean, I was involved in service from my first month because I started that meeting, you see. So I was automatically the GSR. No questions asked. And then this is when the Mid-America region was just forming, and that was Kansas, Nebraska, Oklahoma, and Missouri. So I said, we must get this together. So I met some people from Wichita. We got some people from Nebraska. Met Bob from Joplin a couple of years later, and we started pulling this region together. And we were real sick. Forget traditions. That was like the other thing that hung on the wall, you know. The extra piece of paper that came with the steps. So we didn't follow them too good in the beginning. You know, and it was like I was in my save the world now. I rented this big old house, and I brought the sickest of the sick home to get them clean. And I had some real sick people in that house. Nobody stayed clean but me. Nobody. Well, Martin did, and he was hanging out in the house for a while, you know. But it was like, that worked, though, you know. That got us to start carrying the message. And we started having these little things, and then I decided we needed a newsletter, so I wrote it. No ego involved here. Editor, you know. I was crazy. I was real crazy. But we had great times. You know, like we went out, I sent these addicts out to get a little tree for the house at Christmas, you know, to put in the living room. They came in with this tree that we had to cut 7 feet off the top and had to use guide wires to hold it up. It was so big. And then we decided to have a Christmas tree decorating party. But you know what the greatest thing is? Is that I had one this year too, and one of the guys that was there is sitting here tonight. And they bring an ornament and they put it on my tree. And every year when I decorate my tree, it's ornaments from addicts all over. And it's the greatest thing in the world because each one of those ornaments has a memory of another recovering addict. And that's the magic of this program, is the people. The people are magical here. We have so much. We're such feeling people. I never got loaded over circumstances. I got loaded because I couldn't stand feelings. But now I love them. I love to feel. It's the most wonderful thing I know today. I, too, went back to college, and I got a degree, miraculously enough, to be a counselor. The vocation many of us decide to go into because we know all the answers. And I remember my first client that got loaded. I wanted to kill them. I took it personal. Never mind letting go and letting God. You got fucked up. How dare you? I have learned now to let go of that. Because the ones that I say are not going to make it, and the ones that I say are going to make it don't, so I quit second guessing. Because I know that anybody, no matter how sick, if they come to Narcotics Anonymous meetings, hang on, they can make it. The lie is dead. Once an addict, always an addict. We do recover. And I am proud to be a recovering addict. You know, I remember the first job that I went to, this straight kind of job, you know, when I was going to school. This is really funny. I went to this job, and it was when I was in my circuit, you know, of being an addict, and I was speaking everywhere in the world because it was kind of a quaint little novelty for them in Topeka to have an addict, you know. That was as blatant about it as I was. So I get this job in this insurance company with all these nice little housewives. And I told the person that hired me that I was a recovering addict. And he says, well, that's okay. You know, we'll just kind of keep it between us. I said, well, I can't do that. I said, if they ask me, I'll tell them. And I'll probably tell them anyway. So he goes, well, whatever, you know, and didn't really think too much about it. This was on a Friday they hired me. That Saturday, I spoke at a civic center. That Monday morning, on the front page of the Topeka Journal newspaper was my picture as a recovering addict. Not as of Narcotics Anonymous, but as of a recovering addict. So everyone in the office immediately knew, aren't you the girl in the paper? Yeah, right. So that broke that ice. The great thing about that was is that it carried the message. You know why? Because by the time I left that place, we had brought in Nar-Anon information. We had had people come in and speak to the employees, and we carried the message. You never know where you're going to carry the message. When people say to me, what does that NA stand for? I don't say, not available. I tell them, Narcotics Anonymous, and I wear this proudly. I feel like today I have nothing to be ashamed of in being a recovering addict. I have something to be ashamed of if I'm still out there using. And anybody that can't accept that from me, I don't want around me anyway. And I don't want to work there. You know. A lot of real crazy things have happened to me in recovery. About 6 years I lost it. I lost it. You know, they talk about complacency. That hit. And it was real serious. Because I remember sitting on that bed with that shotgun at 6 years clean, thinking, I can't go on. And I called Sydney R. And I was feeling totally worthless, totally helpless, completely engulfed in self-pity. I said, I'm feeling awful. How are you? She said, my daughter died. From that moment on, I have never been in that much self-pity again. She saved my life by sharing that. Because it took away all the menial things that I thought were wrong. Most of my problems today are of my own making. I can say that today. I used to blame you and you and you and my mother and my father and my this and my that. I don't do that so much anymore. Because today I have a choice. I have a choice of what I want to do. I have meetings to go to. I have a sponsor. I have people to talk to help me, guide me through this journey in recovery. It's only when I choose to take the reins and not listen, which I do, that I get in trouble. And I remember, too, that when I finally found out that it's okay to make a mistake, that was wonderful. Because I make lots of those. It was okay to have a relationship that didn't work. It wasn't the end of the world. I want to say so bad what I usually say, but I just don't know if I should say it or not. Well, okay. You talked me into it. You know, I was at a meeting one night, and it was almost all men there, and they were talking about women and blah, 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 you know. And about how under every skirt is a slip. I want to smack people when they say that shit. So I said, you know what? I said, there isn't a piece of ass that good or that bad to go out after. You know? I don't have to use over anything. And that's the most ridiculous thing to use over. Really. Think about it. It's crazy. Because there's always another one out there. He was talking about making a list of all the people he'd been with in recovery. I did that too. It was real interesting because I put their name, I put how much time they had, and that was real interesting because there's definitely a pattern in that. And how old they were. And there is definitely a pattern in that one too. But I'm getting better. You know, and like I said, I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot in the last few years. I moved home. I went back to New York. And I have to tell a little tiny story here about Rosie. Rosie and I used to be dire enemies at one time. For a good reason. You know. But you know what? This is a woman I love a lot today. And I consider her one of my best friends. We've come a long way. We've come a long way. And I moved home to New York, and they welcomed me to Narcotics Anonymous there. And I got involved in service, and I had a lot of really good things happen to me there. I met somebody there who I have to share a little bit about, because he taught me more about relationships than anybody that I know. And he taught me how to love, and he taught me how to give freely without expecting anything in return. And that was real hard to learn. And we were in a relationship for 4 years. And it's the first relationship that I've ever ended that we're best friends. And I'm real grateful for that today. Because you see, I had a lot of growing up to do. And I still have growing up to do. You know, I have a daughter who I love dearly, who got into trouble with drugs. And it was probably one of the hardest things I ever had to go through being in recovery. And when she went to treatment, there were some things that were revealed in treatment that were real hard to handle, that had happened to her. But today, you know, she's okay. And on June the 19th of last year, she presented me with a beautiful granddaughter. Yes, I'm a grandmother, okay? All right? Not bad for a grandmother, right? But I have to tell you that when I walked outside of that hospital, after I'd been up in the delivery room and held that baby when she was 4 minutes old, I went downstairs and I looked up in the sky and I said, thank you, N.A., and thank you, God. Because if it hadn't been for this program, I would have never seen my granddaughter be born. And that can happen for every one of you sitting in this room tonight. And it's a joy that words cannot describe. And it's only through this program and working the steps. Work the steps or you're going to die, because you're going to go back out there if you don't. I've seen a lot of people come and go in 13 years. And the ones that I see that are still here, and believe me, there's a lot of faces that are still here, that have been around for as long as I have. And you know how they did it? They worked the steps. And it's not easy, but it's simple. And you may hear a lot of cliches in this fellowship, but you know it's the little one-liners that are going to keep you clean. It's going to be the thing that you can remember when you're getting ready to go out there and cop. And stop selling yourself to the dope man. It's not worth it. There's no future in it. And all of us seem to get, since we have a lot of meetings and a lot of people come in and out, we think, well, we can always come back. You know what? You ain't got that guarantee. Neither do I. I know I have another high left in me, but I don't know if I got another recovery. And I don't choose to find out today, a day at a time. How are you doing time-wise? Okay. I had to find out how we're doing time-wise, because I could talk for... No, but anyway. The first step to me, I thought, no problem. I'm an addict. That's it. My life's unmanageable. I understand that. Second step, restore me to sanity. Okay, no problem. No problem. I said, I remember when they put me in a large hospital, no names, in New York, which has a real insane asylum in it. I saw Mac here, and I said to you, you're the only other sick person I know that enjoyed shock treatment. And that was me. Yeah, we were like Pavlov's dogs in that place. The bell went off, medication time. And by the time we got to the end of the hall, it was time to go back. And away we went. And the funniest thing in the world I'll never forget is on Saturday night, after I'd had all these shock treatments, they were going to have a dance. Now here's 50 lunatics on Thorazine and shock treatment in this little room with one of those old 45 record players with the big spindle. It took us an hour to get the first record on the spindle. That was living. That was in 1968. I should have known I was in trouble. I didn't get clean till 1977. I was in a lot of jails, a lot of institutions. I was wonderful in jail. They loved me. They always took me in shackled, because I kind of fought a little. And I remember when I used to go in, the biggest butch in the place used to go, "You're mine." I said, okay. Got any drugs? And they usually did. So I stayed high for 4 or 5 days in jail. Then I decided that wasn't the life I liked. A lot of insanity. But recovery, I'm telling you, when they say fasten your seatbelt, you're in for the ride of your life, they're not kidding. Because the wildest things happen. And I'm one of those kind of people that everything happens to. Like the day I applied for my job in New York, my first job in New York, the crane fell on the woman. And I was there. My first week coming to work, we're coming through, cross Central Park, cross 79th Street. Some woman decides Monday morning was not her trip anymore and takes off out the window, 8 stories up, in front of the bus. But then there's other good things that happen. Like when I got on the airplane in Fort Lauderdale, which I hate to fly. And this cute little stewardess comes up, and she says, "Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen." This is before we even get on the goddamn airplane. And she says, "Due to a mechanical malfunction, the lavatories at the rear of the plane will not be in operation to Dallas." I said, "Marvelous." Now, I don't like to fly anyway, okay? Now, you got to remember this while I'm telling this. Now, I'm with Marty, not this Marty, my Marty. And he's going, "You got to get on the plane." I'm going, "I'm not getting on the plane. I'll send him a tape." He said, "Get on the plane." So I get on the plane. I hadn't slept the whole night before because I figured if I didn't sleep, I would be able to sleep on the plane, then I wouldn't realize I was flying. I get on the plane. Now, I don't like to fly, so I don't want a window seat. I get the window seat. The guy next to me was not in the program, okay? He was not changing seats with me. He did not understand. So I said, "It's not worth the argument. I'll sit here." So I'm sitting there waiting to take off. I figure, okay, we get in the air. I've got my little pillow. I've got my blanket. I'm going to go to sleep. We get up. They turn off the fasten your seatbelt sign. I go to put the seat back, and it's broke. So I figured, I'm real tired. That's okay. I'll just pull the shade down and go to sleep. And there was no shade. Now, by this time, I'm a lunatic, okay? I go to the back of the plane where the little stewardesses are back there doing their little thing in the kitchen, and I said, "Look, my patience and tolerance are exhausted. I have no program left." And they're looking at me like, "What the fuck is this woman talking about?" I said, "I'm tired and I want to go to sleep." They said, "Okay, ma'am." And they kind of cleared off their little seat that they sit in the back, and I curled up there and went to sleep, you know. So it does work out, you know. It just takes a little to get there sometime. And the whole purpose of telling that whole damn thing is I have no idea. I have to say, though, you know, and I better start to shut up. I love talking to you, you know, because I'm getting such good things from you, and I like to share my recovery with you because I'm living proof that you can still be crazy and stay clean, you know. They modeled the shirt, "Clean and Crazy," after me. But I think the other thing that I should mention is that, you know, some people get up here and they say they're from a dysfunctional family. I don't know what that means exactly, but, you know, my family was all kinds of functions. I suppose some of them were functional, some of them were dysfunctional. You know, but I think one of the greatest things is that recovery has allowed me to develop a relationship with my sister, who is here tonight. And my sister's 11 years younger than I am. And, you know, it was a real crazy household growing up in with me. And my mother's also an alcoholic, you know. And probably the craziest summer we had was when I went into treatment and she did too, and we all came home at the same time. And my poor sister, who doesn't use, just kind of used to put her chest of drawers up against the door and go, "Hey, whatever." You know, because when you get 3 people in recovery in one house, everybody telling everybody how to work their program, it's rather insane. But this year I was able to see her get married, you know, and that was real great. And These are all things that Narcotics Anonymous has allowed me to do. Because if I hadn't have gotten clean, you see, I firmly believe I'd have been dead. And I also firmly believe that you and all of you are a chosen few to carry the message that no addict seeking to recover need ever die. And if I sound dramatic sometimes, I am. It's because I live this program to the best of my ability, and I do the best I can on a daily basis of carrying the message of recovery. And sometimes it may not be perfect, but I've managed to put a few days together. It's because you taught me how. And it's only fair for me to try to give some of that back. And that's what I do when I speak. I have no idea when I get up here what is going to come out of my mouth. I'm grateful today that I have a relationship with me, because that took a long time. You know, I can look in the mirror today and say, Cindy's okay. I've given up some of those defects of character. I still have a few, but I work on them. And I'm grateful. I cannot tell you how grateful I am today. You know, and I'm grateful to have somebody in my life today who called me right before from the jail. He's not in jail, okay? He was at a meeting in jail. Just to say, I'm with you. And I feel it. I feel the presence of every addict that's ever touched my heart with me right now, because I'm warm all over. I don't know if you got anything out of what I said. I hope you did. I hope we've had some fun, because recovery is about having a good time too. Don't take yourselves too serious. You'll drive yourself crazy. I love all of you. God bless you. And stay clean.